Many people are awake and are willing to do what they can to fight for our country. But what does that really mean? The powers that be seem to want an uprising. They want violence and revolt so that there is no reason for them not to infringe on our Second Amendment rights.
We need to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. If we can't...
Our forefathers worked under the guise of nature's law, which gave us protection from our Creator, which was why and how they created our Constitution. The Declaration of Independence was established over years of grievances and violations against the people from the evil of the England crown. The people stood strong even after years of war and many lives taken. In the Declaration, they listed their grievances and declared their rights under God. So who did they declare their rights to, and why did they think they had those rights? What our forefathers understood that has been purposely deflected to us in our day was they knew what nature's law really meant. In the first paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, it identifies that God is nature and nature's God. They understood that our rights have already been established by the laws that came from nature or our Creator. These laws entail all things physical, the laws of physics, the laws of gravity, the laws of motion, and so on. For instance, if you walk off a building, the laws of gravity will naturally pull you to the ground. The laws of motion allow us to many types of travel. Nature's law outlined that if you have the physical capability to do anything by the laws of nature, you've already been given that right, so long as it doesn't infringe on other people's rights. This was also outlined in the Bible through the reign of the judges. Why are these things important? Well, for one, we've been lied to. You will never hear about nature's law by our politicians or tyrannical leaders. Perhaps natural law, which had been changed through a Greek translation, but this puts nature's law into a form of legal positivism. Why should we care? Quickly stated, it turns nature's law and the laws of God into the natural law, which is governed by man. For those who don't believe in God, this simply means your inherent rights as a human being are now being controlled by a government rather than individual or by a collective community as intended by those before us that worked so hard to achieve this. In our current system, they do not even recognize nature's law. For instance, on a larger scale, a driver's license is unconstitutional because it states it is legal to only drive when you have their license, making the nature's law and the ability to law of motion illegal without it. In nature's law, it says the laws have already been made. They cannot change or alter the law. They can only put provisions and statutes in place for the safety of others. The people in Maui who have lost their homes are unable to go to their own property under the claim of an emergency, which has now passed. Under the guise of nature's law, there is no such thing. The right to property is a fundamental right that should not be controlled by man. It has also been claimed that FEMA has restricted people from food and water in Maui unless they agree to certain things. We won't know all the details until the people are able to speak freely, but this would be unconstitutional. Many cities are trying to control the water rights in their states. In Utah, the government made a claim to the water through a bill passed unconstitutionally that includes even the rainwater collection in the case of an emergency, or what they deem an emergency. This is against nature's law and the Constitution, both by states and U.S. Constitution. Water is something created in nature, thereby should not be controlled by man. Smart cities are coming, and we all know it, those of us paying attention, which includes surveillance, the restriction of gas cars, lack of city oversight, monopolies, and other unconstitutional acts. The masks people were forced to wear during the pandemic were against our constitutional rights and evaded any scientific facts or reasonings. Definition change was made prior to the COVID vaccines, as it did not fit the criteria for such. To this day, COVID has never been isolated for testing proving novel virus, and yet people were forced or coerced into taking this or losing their job without it.
The most important impact is that it permitted there to be this illusion of consensus about lockdown that never truly existed. In fact, I think a very large number of doctors, scientists, epidemiologists, and others were opposed to lockdown. They never countenance lockdown as the right thing to do. But rather than let that debate go out to happen, there was essentially a propaganda campaign, intimidation campaign by the American government, but I also think by the UK government and others, to essentially order social media companies, many of whom were actually all too willing to go along, to suppress this debate from happening, to smear the people who disagreed with someone like Tony Fauci on almost any aspect of it, and thereby essentially shut that debate down. So many doctors, so many epidemiologists and scientists silenced themselves, looking at the example of what happened to people who stuck their neck out. And why would they do this? I think part of the main reason is, if you're going to impose something as extraordinary as a lockdown, if you're going to impose something that's going to harm and at least I should say impact the lives of so many people, that's going to require them to do so much self-sacrifice, you have to have something pretty close to unanimous consensus within science. Very, very close to that. If you don't have that, you don't have a moral or ethical basis for asking the public to do that. So they had to create this illusion of consensus that
This not only broke Nuremberg codes, but HIPAA and our constitutional rights. When religious exemptions were asked for, employers were asking what religion people had and wanting them to prove it as a religion. This is against our First Amendment rights. A religion, or a right by such, made simple, simply means belief. A belief does not have to be proven nor attached to a religion for it to be a belief under nature's law. Many didn't know this and complied anyway. Politicians today openly create havoc, trample on our rights, and commit treasonous acts right in front of our eyes. Yet they go after others for freedom of speech. In Idaho, St. Luke's Hospital is allowed to go after protesters for millions of dollars while no damage was done in the name of trespassing. Why? There's other cities that burned all across the country during the pandemic, and they're still looted to this day. Politicians are constantly saying our democracy as well as mainstream media, when in fact we have never been a democracy, but a constitutional republic. So many lies. We have to start peeling back the layers. Agencies such as FBI, CIA, IRS, CDC, NIH, none of these are backed by Constitution. The government was only allowed 17 things to govern, and these were not it. So what do we do about it? Our world is upside down. We have heard over and over again, there is a plan, and someone else will come and save us. But if you believe in God and read the Bible, you should know that's not how it works. We, as God's children, are required to protect the laws of God. Are we doing that? No one wants to go to war. No one wants to take anything physically. But there are things we can do before that has to happen. Stay tuned for part 2.